Hello everyone and welcome to the Ronnie Show. So, it's Saturday, March 19th, and we have a lot to get you. I'm going to reveal my March Madness bracket. We're going to preview Season 5 of the Ronnie Show. The Musketeers, they've clinched a playoff spot. We'll explain more about the playoff format a little later on. So we have a lot to get to. This is probably going to be close to half an hour, if not over in half an hour long. Weekly show this week because we have a lot of stuff to get through. So let's start off right away with some NHL scores. We'll start last night. Senators beat the Flyers 3-1. Capitals beat the Hurricanes 4-3 in a shootout. The Bruins beat the Jets 4-2. The Sabres beat the Flames in overtime 1-0. The Panthers beat the Ducks 3-0. And the Avalanche beat the Sharks 5-3. We'll take a look at today's games, or this afternoon's games, I should say. Stars and the Islanders tied up at 0 in the first. Wild lead the Blackhawks 1-0 in the first. Starting here in just a little bit, the Devils at the Oilers. The Kings are at the Golden Knights later. Then we have the Blues at the Blue Jackets, the Penguins at the Coyotes, Senators are at the Canadiens, the Maple Leafs are at the Predators, the Rangers are at the Lightning later tonight. I'll probably be watching that. I'll probably be switching back and forth between that and March Madness, probably. And then the Flames are at the Canucks. Red Wings are at the Kraken later tonight as well. NBA scores. Last night, the 76ers beat the Mavericks 111-101. The Knicks beat the Wizards 100-97. The Lakers beat the Raptors 128-123 in overtime. The Hawks beat the Grizzlies 120-105. The Nets beat the Trailblazers 128-123. The Cavaliers beat the Nuggets 119-116. The Heat beat the Thunder 120-108. The Pacers beat the Rockets 121-118. The Pelicans beat the Spurs 124-91. The Jazz beat the Clippers 121-92. The Celtics beat the Kings 126-97. And then the Suns beat the Bulls 129-102. College basketball, it's March Madness. Well, first, let's get to our bracket first. My bracket. Now, I made this Monday night. So, I've meant to show it to you guys, but I've just completely putting it off because of school and homework and stuff like that. Studying for different quizzes and tests and all that. So, I just have not had enough time to, share everything. Anyway, so here is our first four matchups. Well, my first four matchups. Wyoming and Indiana. I had Wyoming winning. Then I had Texas Southern beating Texas A&M. And then I had Wright State beating Bryant. And then I had Notre Dame beating Rutgers. But obviously, some of that didn't actually happen. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a second. Gonzaga. I picked Gonzaga. In fact, as you're seeing right now, I picked Gonzaga to win the whole thing, which we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Gonzaga. Here are my picks for the West, so that we can make it go a little faster, or the North, or whatever it is. I don't know. The way they do divisions, sometimes it kind of makes my head go crazy. So Gonzaga and Memphis, Mexico State, or New Mexico State and Vermont, Alabama and Montana State, Michigan and CSU Fullerton, but, obviously, I don't know. See, I wanted to choose upsets, but every year I always choose the wrong upsets, and Duke was an example of that last night. So then I had Gonzaga and New Mexico State moving on. Then I had Alabama and Michigan State moving on. So we have Gonzaga and Michigan State. I ultimately went with Gonzaga. And then I had Baylor and North Carolina, Wyoming and UCLA, Virginia Tech and Purdue, Murray State and Kentucky. Then we have Baylor and UCLA, Purdue and Kentucky. Then I have UCLA and Kentucky. And as you can see, I have UCLA there as the winner. So now we'll head over here to the other half of the bracket. I had Wright State, TCU, Houston and Illinois, Colorado State and Tennessee, Loyola Chicago and Villanova. Then we move on to the next round, TCU and Houston, Tennessee and Villanova, and then the next round, Houston and Tennessee, and then I ultimately picked with Houston. Next part, Kansas and Creighton, then Richmond and Providence, LSU and Colgate. I went with them last year, but I'm going with them again this year. Hopefully they'll win. USC and Auburn, and then we have Creighton and Providence, LSU and Auburn, and then I have Creighton and LSU, and then I have LSU moving on to the Final Four. Now I have Houston and UCLA, or Houston, UCLA, LSU, and Gonzaga. So I had Gonzaga and LSU, and then I have Gonzaga winning it all. Tiebreaker score 100-50, because that's how I do it. In fact, I'm in 16th place out of 18. In our family pool, but that was as of last night. So yeah, I'm not doing that right. But that's okay. Here, let's do the tourney. We'll kind of look back at all the scores from the first round is what we're going to do, and maybe even the first four, too. Might as well. Oh, of course, it's an error, because why the heck not? There, it worked just fine there. I don't know what the problem was. Okay, so we'll start all the way back with the first four Tuesday night. Texas Southern beat Texas AMU 76-67, and then Indiana beat Wyoming 66-58. That was the first four. We go to the second half of the first four. Wright State beat Bryant 93-82, and then Notre Dame beat Rutgers in overtime, double overtime there. So as you can see, we were not off to the brightest of starts, to say the least. Ah, stop! Why is it doing that? Ah! I gotta quit pressing buttons! Alright, I'm not clicking it anymore. So we go to the first half of Thursday. Gonzaga beat Georgia State 93-72. Kansas beat Texas Southern 83-56. Baylor beat Norfolk State 85-49. Tennessee beat Longwood 88-56. Geez, these are all blowouts. And then I watched this one all the way through. St. Peter's beat Kentucky in overtime and screwing up everyone's bracket. And then UCLA beat Akron 57-53. I bet you someone's going to be a millionaire because of that pick. St. Peter's winning. Providence beat South Dakota State 66-57. Richmond beat Iowa 67-63. Arkansas beat Vermont 75-71. St. Mary's beat Indiana 82-53. Murray State beat San Francisco in overtime 92-87. I watched a little bit of that game, but not very much. New Mexico State beat UConn 70-63. Memphis beat Boise State 64-53. Michigan beat Colorado State 75-63. North Carolina beat Marquette 95-63. And then Creighton beat San Diego State in overtime 72-69. Alright, now yesterday's games. Arizona beat Wright State 87-70. Villanova beat Delaware 80-60. Auburn beat Jacksonville State 80-61. Duke beat Cal State Fullerton 78-61. Purdue beat Yale 78-56. Texas Tech beat Montana State 97-62. Then, of course, Colgate disappointing me again. Wisconsin beat them 67-60. Houston beat UAB 82-68, but we'll count. Colgate will be back in, as they say, 3 times a charm, so. Illinois beat Chattanooga 54-53. Some of these colleges. Miami beat USC 68-66. Texas beat Virginia Tech 81-73. Loyola Chicago. We were all cheering for Loyola. And what was it? Jean is her name, the 100-year-old. Hold on, I gotta look this up. Loyola Chicago. Sister Jean, yeah, that was her name. Yeah, 102. I'll be darned. Notre Dame beat Alabama 78-64. Iowa State beat LSU 59-54. Gosh, that was a close game there at the end. I thought it pretty much came down to the wire there. Michigan State beat Davidson 74-73. We watched this game all the way through too as well. TCU beat Seton Hall 69-42. Today's games of round 2 action, round of 32. I was just watching this game in overtime, North Carolina at Baylor. I mean, it was crazy. Baylor was down by like almost 20 at one point. Jeez Louise. Then they came all the way back. As you can see, they've scored 51 points in the second half. So, yeah, tied up at 80. Now it's not, unfortunately. Creighton is at Kansas a little later on. In fact, it should be starting right about now. Then we have Michigan State at Tennessee. Or not Michigan State, just Michigan at Tennessee. Then we have Richmond at Providence. St. Mary's at UCLA. St. Peter's at Murray State. New Mexico State at Arkansas, and then Memphis at Gonzaga. So tomorrow's round of 32 games, we have Houston at Illinois, Ohio State at Villanova, Michigan State at Duke, Iowa State at Wisconsin, Notre Dame at Texas Tech, Miami at Auburn, Texas at Purdue, and then TCU at Arizona. All right, well, it's now time to take a look at some USHL scores and then review last night's Musketeers game between Omaha. Well, they were in Omaha last night, yeah. So Cedar Rapids beat Team USA 6-2. And then Muskegon beat Dubuque 7-4. And then Fargo beat Sioux Falls 4-2. Waterloo beat Tri-City 5-4. John Waldron there with 2 goals. Then Lincoln beat Des Moines 5-2. Chicago beat Madison 3-2, and then Musketeers won 4-1. Now we're gonna take a look at tonight's games. In fact, no. We'll take a look at tonight's games, then go back and review last night. So tonight's games, we have Sioux City back in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids at Team USA, Sioux Falls at Fargo, Tri-City at Waterloo, Lincoln at Omaha, Dubuque at Muskegon, Youngstown at Chicago, and then Green Bay is at Madison. So, last night, we'll review last night's game. Really nothing interesting happened in the first period. It was just a normal 20-minute full first period, no interruptions. Well, there probably were a couple whistles, but other than that, it was pretty boring first period. Just trying to find the right words there. But then second period, all heck broke loose, because as you can see, within 36 seconds, Musketeers had the lead 2-0. And then it was pretty quiet after that for another 10 minutes until Morgan Winters, he went to the box, so that was pretty much nothing. Then Grant Slukinski scored on the power play goal. And then Ralph Bergmanis and Cam Mitchell got into a fight. Bergmanis, he's tough, If you try to fight him, good luck with that, because that was just the absolute wrong decision by Cam Mitchell. Even Omaha fans were freaking out about it, too. I mean, there's this group on Facebook called the USHL discussion group that I'm in, and a couple of Omaha fans thought that wasn't a very good choice either. But hey, they probably had fun while it was happening. So, yep, and then Jared Wright scored for Omaha 11 seconds later, but that was really no big deal. CC had it in the bag afterwards. I mean, nothing really interesting happened except for a couple penalties. when Charlie Shane sealed the deal with the empty netter at the end. So yeah, and now when we take a look at the standings, you're going to notice with the win last night, the Musketeers have clinched a playoff spot. So just like that, the Musketeers are back in the playoffs. Now, we're going to get to the playoff format and how it's going to work here. But as you can see there, Sioux City, they have 65 points. They only have 11 games left in the season. As you can see, Chicago, Dubuque, they're at 68, 67 points. They have not clinched a playoff spot yet. That's because Muskegon and Youngstown, and maybe even Madison too, there's still a chance for those three teams to make it. In my opinion, Green Bay, Cedar Rapids, and Team USA are out. Well, actually, no, that's not how that works. One of those three teams will be in, for sure. However, it's the top 6 teams in each division that move on. So you would see Des Moines and Sioux Falls would be out, then Green Bay and Team USA would be out, which I think Team USA, they're already going to be out. But, and I think Des Moines and Sioux Falls are going to be out too. So I think it's just going to be, I think we already know what the playoff picture is going to look like, pretty much for the West. In the East, it's a little hard to decipher because of how close things are there. I mean, they might not seem close, but trust me, it's closer than what you think it is. Yeah, we kind of know what's going on in the West. Nothing's really going to change, I don't think. Maybe the position of the bottom 3, because they've been changing all year, but I don't think that's going to happen. You know, Fargo, they went on a tear early on here in the year, so I think things are going to pretty much stay the same. They're just going to be fighting over Waterloo and Fargo, fighting over that 5th place position. So yeah, the reason why hold on. Let me find. Okay. Now, here's how the format's going to work for the playoffs. It's going to do 6 from each division. Now, it's going to start on April 25th because the regular season ends on the 23rd. And for the Musketeers, it's going to end on a home game. So we're going to have a huge spectacular for that. I'm already going to plan some things out for that because, you know, we're going to have giveaways and stuff like that. So, yeah. So here's how this is going to work. Now, the reason why it is so important right now that the Musketeers have clinched a playoff spot is because if they continue going on the tear that they're going on right now, because they've won, what did it say, 8 in their last 10 or 7 or 6 or whatever? Standings will tell us. Yeah, they've won 8 out of their last 10 games. As you can see, no other team in the league has done that. So, Sioux City, they've just been on it. The first and second place teams will receive byes from the first round. And then the second round, the winner of the... Yeah. So the first round, Okay, so hold on. I gotta figure out how this is gonna work. Okay, the first round will be a 3-game series, the best 2 out of 3, between the number 3 and 6 seed, the 3 and 6, and the 4 and 5. Now, the 3 home games will be played at the higher seed's home location for 3 consecutive nights. And then the winner of the 3v6 will play the 2nd seed, and then the 4 and the 5 will play the number 1 seed. So, yeah. And then the semifinals, again, is a best-of-3 series, with Game 1 being played at the lower seed, and then the higher seeds will be 2nd and 3rd. So this is why the Musketeers, it's very important that they have 2nd place, because then they'll have an advantage. And then the conference semifinals, will it be a best of 5? A conference final, it'll be a best of 5. Yeah, so the format of the conference final will be determined by the higher seed, choosing between, you know, both these options, like that, as you can see. And then the Eastern Conference champions and the Western Conference champions will have a best of 5 series. The higher seed will host 1, 2, and 5. So, and then that's the timeline. So the season, the latest it will go is May 25th. Now, it's not going to affect any programming, because May is not a fun and games month. because, as you know, for all the rest of my fun and games, we're going to have them in either March, June, and September, with a few, like, Sale of the Century. I'm ending that in April. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's going to be a fun few, or a fun month there, April through May. Anyway, we're going to do a preview of Season 5 of The Ronnie Show. Now, this is like the main series, you know, where we actually talk to other people and not talk about sports. Because this weekly show now, it is The Ronnie Show, actually. So you're going to see The Ronnie Show weekly now. It's a popular series on my YouTube channel, so yeah. Anyway, Season 5. So, Act 1, it will be just like a regular late night show or a talk show. I'll have an opening clip, which will be the preview of the show, and then I'll play the intro, and I'll pop out of the curtain, then I'll talk about things that are on my mind, so maybe some news stories, but maybe not news stories, because we're filming in April and May, and they start airing in July. So, yeah. And then Act 2, we will be at the desk. Now, I'll preview the show and the interview we will have. Then we will do a segment called News Be Weird. It's kind of like Jay Leno's headlines, but it's something different. And then, after that, we will do one of the segments. Can Ronnie Vadine hit the high note? Which I'm going to have a song playing, and it's going to have like a really high note, maybe even into the whistle registry too. And then we're going to determine whether I can hit that high note or not. And then we'll have maybe even an audience survey, a Q&A, and then our high-low game, where we can win prizes for the audience. Then Act 3, we will have an interview. So I will interview someone. They'll have a fake name and a fake personality, and we might even play one of these segments too, or I might create separate games for the guests. And then, the final part of the show, I will be singing a song. Yes, I'll be the performer. And then after that, we'll close out the show, and we will be done. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching us. I know this was a bit longer than usual, but there was a lot of stuff to get through. So, yeah, especially since the March Madness is starting and the Musketeers are in the playoffs, there was a lot to get to. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.